Gross. Willkommen in einem Fragens video. Welcome to another exciting video, in this case episode 6 of my Star Trek, the original series, speculation series of videos. In this video, I will discuss what life was like on Earth in the universe, or timeline, of the original series and the animated series. The speculation series of videos will differ from my previous in that a different level of speculation is required. I'll cover topics of interest which I simply lack sufficient evidence to create a credible and holistic view or conclusion, so instead I'll take what facts I have, minimal facts, and have backfilled those facts with as many speculations as possible to give me something that I can work with. I could be totally wrong, but what I'll come up with will not conflict with the canon of Star Trek, the original series, or the animated series, so you never know, it could be correct. In this particular video, I'll be trying to determine what life on Earth was actually like during the United Earth and the original series Federation period. My initial impression of life on Earth is coloured by the movies, The Next Generation and Voyager. The impression is normally a utopian, almost perfect world, but after doing some analysis of the script, I suspect the reality may not actually be as rosy, particularly in the original series universe. I never previously thought it would be possible to confirm what life on Earth was like from just the original series and animated series scripts, as the Enterprise never visits current Earth. However, I realise that we can get a glimpse of life on Earth from the memories of Pike, and we can make some inferences based on our current understanding of the original series timeline. Let's look at the episode The Cage to get some information. I have to admit the information is minimal, to say the least. However, we do get some valuable clues. When we look at this image, we know that the location is the Mojave Desert, I assume, which is supposed to be a very remote-like desert location. Yet in this case it's very green and a major city is very close by. The second piece of information is the parkland around the city is rather pretty and large, which means the metropolis we see in the background is likely not a particularly big city. Pike has a horse, but as he was from a remote location and he is the captain of a Starfleet craft, he probably comes from a middle or upper middle class family, so this may not be a surprise. In this image we get a better view of this, what apparently is not a large city in the background of what today is a rather remote, undeveloped location. This is about the only view we get of a Federation Earth in the original series, and upon reflection it does raise some interesting questions. While the Telosians were downloading the data from the Enterprise, we do get to briefly see some maps, but I have to admit, unfortunately, they don't tell us anything apart from New York being some form of pretty central hub. Well, it's not much information, but the key takeaways are even in what is a remote location today, we have extensive development. Could this be due to massive population, or could this be for other reasons? The desert area around the Mojave is very green and lush. Could some form of terraforming technology be responsible? The major cities only have parklands, which apparently are very pretty, but is a parkland. It's not a remote area. Whereas the native areas, wilderness and undeveloped land, it seems there could be very little of it, if any at all. Why could this be the case? In the episode Shore Leave, Kirk mentions that the recreation planet is how we remember Earth to be. Could Earth be very different outside of any parkland in his time? This supports the theory Earth is covered with cities or some infrastructure with only parkland available as recreation areas similar to Earth's past. Nothing unusual about this. Now we need to ask ourselves, does this mean people in a high technology and abundant utopia, or an unpleasant, overcrowded world? It took me a while to realise this, but the elephant in the room is the human colonization program, which seems incredibly large. In the time of Kirk, there are 1,000 worlds in the Federation, which I have to assume are Federation member planets, or colonies of a Federation member planet. Of these planets, perhaps as many as 800 are human planets, if not more. We have about 50 alien Federation members, with perhaps a few colonies each on average, giving us about 200 worlds. Should be noted, I'm unable to identify any alien colony planet in the Federation, but I have to assume some must exist, even if they're very small, which they likely are. If we look at all the planets mentioned in the original series and the animated series, we get 187 planets or systems. 48 are non-Federation planets, 15 uninhabited planets, and 19 are dead planets. So we have a total of 105 planets or systems to look at. There are 24 Federation alien planets, so 81 are human planets, most of which are colonies. Kirk normally patrols the periphery of the Federation, so he'll get a significantly greater alien planet count and less human planet count. So 80% human seems reasonable, which is 800 planets colonized by humans. In 2270, the humans have been sending out colony ships for over 270 years, which would require from 2 to 4 per year. While the initial colonization of the planet only requires a few hundred colonists, once established, that is the agriculture established and food production, the ships would be sending out thousands to each colony world until its population reached 1 million, after which it would become a member planet and immigration would likely reduce. It's highly likely in 2264 as many as 1.4 million colonists would be travelling out each year. Most would be from Earth, which would have a population of, I estimate, 20 billion in that year. In terms of percentages, this is not a great percentage, perhaps 0.01% of the population of Earth per year, but it's still a lot of people in terms of numbers or raw numbers. If life was wonderful on Earth, or a utopian Earth, why would you want to immigrate to a colony? It must remember that being a colonist is not the same as an immigrant today. An immigrant on Earth today could always visit home with a flight of up to 24 hours maximum. A colonist in the time of the Federation or United Earth would spend up to a year travelling to a planet, 2 to 3 years on that planet, cut off and basically on their own, and likely with no possibility of ever going back home. It was a one-way trip, which had significant risks and took a long time. The best analogy we can look at from history would be the migration from England to North America in the 1600s, where about 100,000 people immigrated during this 100-year period. The peak was 50,000 over a 20-year period, or 1,000 people per year. England had a population of about 4 million, so at its peak, 0.25% of the population immigrated in this manner per year. However, if we look over the entire 100-year period, this is halved or more than halved, and is similar to the immigration rate required to sustain the human colonization effort that I've estimated, which is basically 0.01% of the population going out every year. I have to point out the numbers I'm dealing with is the official colonization program of the United Earth and Federation. Many others may well have immigrated to more developed colony worlds outside of this particular program, but let's put them to one side. The reason why so many people immigrated from England to North America is, no surprise, their lives sucked in England. No future, no hope, and no prospects, as well as some persecution. This sustained such a significant immigration rate in the 17th century. It makes me think the same situation may have applied on Earth. Basically, for a lot of people, life on Earth sucked. This makes me now think that Earth was closer to the world of Blade Runner than what we see in the Next Generation or Voyager episodes. It's possible by the time of the Next Generation, Earth does become a wonderful place to live within, which would tend to cause the colonization program to probably collapse. It must be remembered in the Next Generation timeline, or the Next Generation timeline, is very different to the original series timeline, and I suspect the humans did not engage in such an aggressive colonization effort in the Next Generation timeline. The Earth population may also be a lot less. From members, from memory, there was a lot more global conflict in the Next Generation timeline than the original series timeline. So with a significantly reduced population, life may have ended up being better. I have no idea, as I'm mainly focusing on the original series. In the original series timeline, life on Earth likely sucks for a lot of people, which gives them the incentive to go on a long, one-way, dangerous colony path. Let's go back into time and try to understand what Earth was like when the Vulcans arrived for first contact, probably in 1997. During World War III, likely from between 1986 to 1990, Central Europe would have been hit hard with tactical nuclear weapons, killing 37 million people. Denmark, Holland, Belgium may have been infected on the west as well as Poland in the east, and of course Germany would have been heavily affected. While major cities were not attacked, up to 100 low-yield warhead would have peppered the countryside. While we know that after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, if you wait long enough, you can go back and rebuild your city and live in a location, a nuclear weapon hit, you do need to evacuate a lot of people for some period of time. The number of affected people could reach 100 million, with 50 million severely affected and needing somewhere else to live. It's likely the United States took a huge number of refugees as a result of World War III, and for those which remained, would have expended a huge amount of resources to assist those who remained. On top of this, the US was engaged in a much more aggressive Cold War prior to World War III and would have expended a huge number of resources during the war. While the US may not have been affected by a nuclear attack in this scenario, the living standards of its people would have been affected. If the eugenics war did not occur, the US could have recovered, and history would play out in a similar way to what occurred after World War II. But that was not the world of the original series. The eugenics war put even more pressure on the fragile economies on the United States and the Western Allies. Instead of being allowed to move from a wartime economy, to a peacetime economy, the US and its allies ended up getting involved in the eugenics war starting in 1993. First, they launched an invasion of the Superman-controlled countries in South America. Then they launched an invasion of the Superman-controlled countries in Africa. So far, no nuclear warfare, I would assume. This would then have been followed up with an invasion of Khan's remaining nation, which did result in nuclear war, killing perhaps as many as 600 million people. If World War III created a humanitarian disaster, this war made it look like child's play. Hundreds of millions of people lived in a radioactive environment. Infrastructure was destroyed or disrupted, and food production collapsed due to nuclear winter. Then, in the middle of this disaster, the Vulcans turn up, and the US and its allies had to start a massive program to get out into space to defend the Earth from a completely unknown alien threat. The result was likely a world in a permanent war economy with individuals living on the bare minimum. The only real opportunities were those provided by the massive humanitarian, space exploration, and infrastructure reconstruction programs. I could easily see what was to become the United Earth government would cram as many people as possible into small cities while freeing up as much land as possible for food production. Conserving the ecology would have been ignored as the human race desperately tried to feed the remaining 2 to 3 billion people within a nuclear winter world, which suffered the effect of huge swaths of land being irradiated with nuclear fallout, which happened to be previously highly productive agricultural land. This would have been a desperate and grim place to live in, probably for the following entire century. If there was any excess resources being able to produce, it would immediately be pumped into the colonization, the Starfleet, and Starfleet build-out. I can easily see an economy with a 10% of GDP or greater expending on military or expenditure on the military and an equivalent on a colony program. Like England during World War II, each productive citizen would be issued ration books and provided with only what was essential to remain productive. If you are not productive, your life would make today's welfare system look like sheer luxury. In England, you even got different amounts of calories per day based on what work you did. So factory workers were allowed a higher calorie count than, for example, non-factory workers. In the German military at the time, it was exactly the same situation, with soldiers in the Wehrmacht getting significantly more kilojoules or calories than citizens that were at home not doing, let's say, factory work. Because of the relentless drive to expand into space, which is almost a war in itself in terms of the amount of resources you need to expend on it, this state of affair would have likely remained for a long time, at least until the Earth-Romulan War. After this life or death struggle, I can see the wartime economy continuing for a lot longer, and with the Klingons appearing, it would be unlikely to disappear. I have no doubt those with the specific skills required by the United Earth would have been rewarded, and their lives would have been reasonable, as was Captain Pike's life, for example. But I can see a lot of people without the unique skills required living a dull, monotonous life with little hope and almost no opportunity to better their lives unless they became colonists. I highly suspect that there were a lot more people willing to be colonists than there were positions for them. As a result, the United Earth could be rather selective about who could become colonists. I suspect becoming a colonist was something many Earth citizens dreamed about as they were labouring in their huge collective farms or in their equally huge factories. This situation would obviously not continue after the Romulans were defeated, and with the formation of the Federation, the situation may have slowly improved as productivity improved and, as a percentage of the whole population, the colony program slowly wound down. But even in the time of Kirk, life on Earth, while a lot better, would have still been a crowded and dull and monotonous life. So in summary, I strongly feel that life on the overcrowded world of the United Earth and early Federation was anything but idyllic, and there would have been a lot of citizens eager to take the risk of becoming colonists. And so we come to an end of episode 6 of my Star Trek, the original series history speculation series of videos, in this case discussing what life was like on Earth in the original series timeline. The episode scripts can be found using the URL shown. Alle guten Dingen, kommen zu einem Ende.